you're bidding on. We see a lot of client accounts that come through and don't have the ad groups either tight enough or have them maybe too tight. But if you have ad copy that's relevant to the keywords, of course, that's always going to help click-through rate. And this also then applies to peel and stick, because you're achieving the same thing by writing more specific ad copy in that case. And then we talk about choosing keywords carefully, which is along the lines of what you just mentioned too. There will be times that we see clients try to force a situation where they feel their product would be good for a category keyword that's just too general and might be good for content but wouldn't be good for search. So you have to think about what keywords are best suited for the search network versus the content network, and then even more so, mine that search query report for additional exact match keywords that convert. You'd mentioned this too, Glenn, and along those lines, you should also mine for negatives, which will improve your broad match and phrase match click-through rate, but those don't have the same effect on quality score that exact match does, and we'll get into that later. So actually, negatives, while they're really smart to develop for your account, don't take you down the path of improving your quality score.
Okay, I don't want to upstage you, so if you're covering this in a little bit, then let me know. We can go on, but I want to make sure everybody understands what's on the screen. When you're saying, what you're saying is that the vaguer beginning of the search continuum type of words are better for the content network. So for example, the word roofing might work fine in a content theme, but if you're trying to bid on it in search, you'll have a hard time getting a decent click-through rate, because really roofing, especially as a broad match, is comprised of so many different phrases and so many different needs and concerns and wants and desires of the consumer that it's hard for any one ad to match that really well.
Yeah. I tend to gravitate towards roofing as an example because we have had an internal business here of Jeff's that dealt with roofing quotes, so I'm comfortable, talking about it. A good example like that would be the word siding. If you're trying to generate leads for roofing quotes, if someone types in siding, they're probably not looking for a roofing quote. However, if you had an ad group on the content network that dealt with siding, it would probably put your roofing quote ad in places where people are looking at information about home repair or home improvements, and siding as a keyword for a roofing quote ad would work out pretty good on the content network, but relatively bad on the search network. So that's a pretty good example there. And then roofing, as opposed to roofing quote or Chicago roofing quote, would be an example of mining your search query report. You would have roofing as a broad term, and you would see things come through like Chicago roofing quote or best Naperville, Chicago, Illinois roofing quote, some long thing like that. And then you would know, I can pull this out and bid on this exactly. And that's a good way to use the last point.
And just so that everybody really understands, because I was really, when I was doing the account audits myself, when we were starting the company, I was really surprised. Probably 85% of the audience that I didn't know what a search query report was. In your report center, there's a free report called the Search Query Report. And what that does is it shows you the phrases that Google expanded from your generic phrases that you're bidding on. So if you were bidding on the word roofing in quotes or the word roofing without quotes, you're giving Google permission to use fuzzy logic and and expose your ad to someone who types in roofing in Milwaukee or aluminum siding. And the search query report helps you understand what keywords were actually typed in that the ad was exposed on and how well each one performs. And the benefit of that is you might want to pull out the ones that are performing really well and work them individually, because you'll get a really high click-through rate. And the ones that aren't doing well, you might want to delete from your if they're already in your I'm sorry, they wouldn't be in your keyword group already. The ones that aren't doing well, you might want to add as a negative to your keyword group. And Rob, why is it that negatives don't affect your quality score?
It has to do with the way that quality score is figured. The CTR that matters for quality score is actually the CTR based on the exact match. But that is actually its own revelation that we will get to.
Okay. Okay.
It's worth mentioning it because it tends to come up in this discussion, but we'll dig in that deeper on its own.
Marina and Jared, do you want a chance to say anything?
No, I think that we had a great discussion on the first revelation.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to pause for a sec. I'm going to pause for a second before we go to the next one. Okay.
Okay. Although there's a really cool graphic coming up, Glenn.
Are we still in number one?
There's one last thing for number one.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So here we go.
Well, that was a really cool graphic. Thank you.
Sure. More quality clicks equals money for you and for Google.
Thanks.
You have to align your interests with theirs. So.
That's the point. Okay.